I'm excited about the Amalfi Curse in particular because of the three books. It's hands down getting the best reviews, and readers seem to love it. So, it's in a different city. My first two books take place in London. This one takes place on the Amalfi Coast, and which is a very like trendy, hot place right now. And I think that was not only fun for me to write a new location, but I think readers are really enjoying that change of pace. So a nautical archaeologist is basically an archaeologist who performs her work underwater. Sometimes they're referred to as maritime archaeologists, but essentially, Haven in my story, she is investigating shipwrecks and she's actually working on a project to render three-dimensional images of shipwrecks that are on the ocean floor. So there's really very few places you can get a nautical archaeology degree. Texas A&M is one of them. So as part of my research for what Haven's background looked like, I was sort of looking at some of their coursework, and I have bookmarked on my browser so many renderings of shipwrecks and scuba dive footage, underwater footage of shipwrecks. So it was really a super fun topic to research. I got certified as a scuba diver through PADI. That's kind of PADI. That's sort of the main organization about, gosh, probably 11 years ago when I was living in Kansas, of all places, which is where I'm born and raised. We drove down to Arkansas to get our open water certification. And my husband got certified at the same time. And so we've gone diving all over the world, Thailand, Belize, the Caribbean. However, my personal favorite diving has always been the Florida Keys. And it's exactly as Haven says in the book. You can stay underwater for a really long time because it's shallow water. So your air tank lasts you hours. The water's warm. You don't have to wear a wetsuit. There are thousands of shipwrecks in the Florida Keys, lots of great wildlife. And in the event of an emergency, you're shallow enough that you can ascend to the surface, which would otherwise be pretty dangerous if you were in deeper water. So that was one of the most fun parts of writing Haven's underwater experiences, was I was drawing on real knowledge and real experience to do that. The three islets that are kind of featured in the story, they're known as the Ligali, these three little islands. They historically have a number of shipwrecks kind of littered around that area. Back in the age of sailing, when we didn't have the navigation systems that we have today, lots of mariners sort of ran aground into this area. The Ligali Islets are also where legend has it, where the mythological sirens originated. So I sort of wove that into the story because the witches in my book descend from the sirens. So that worked nicely. And then, of course, all along that corridor, there are Roman ruins, especially if you kind of go up through Naples, which is not far at all from where the book takes place. There's a really rich history of piracy. So a lot of the features of the story that I kind of wove into this historical narrative are steeped in truth. So, or mythology, you could say. So it was quite a task to make it all work and fit together nicely, but I'm really pleased with the outcome. In Italy, the word for witchcraft is stregaria. And I knew that I wanted, because I write books that have a speculative element, whether it's magic, seances, witchcraft, what have you. I knew that I wanted to continue along that theme, for me, historical with elements of magic and mystery. So I decided to take this Italian witchcraft, but play with it a little bit. And so there are 12 witches in my story, in the historical narrative, and they are witches of the sea. So Strega del Mar is what they're known as. And I had this beautiful opportunity because I was starting with sort of this real um, belief of witchcraft in Italy, but I was adapting it for my own purposes in the book. I had a lot of fun kind of developing what the sea witches in my story had jurisdiction over. So there's 7 incantations listed at the beginning of the book, and those are the 7 spells that the women can perform on the ocean, ranging from something as small as just drawing water towards you to really cataclysmic incantations that create a very large, powerful whirlpool that can take under a ship. So I had so much fun thinking about, all right, I've got this broad arena of witchcraft, but what do I specifically want my witches to be in charge of? 12 witches, that's a fairly large cast of characters. So there are really just several within the coven that we see the most of. So Mari, she is the leader by birthright. So she's kind of got the most or the richest legacy of this witchcraft in her blood. And then there's a very young girl named Leah. And something happens to her at the beginning of the story that Mari spends much of the book trying to fix. And then, of course, we meet Mari's best friend who's in on a secret. We meet Leah's mother who's grieving that something has happened to her child. So, although I've got this coven of 12 witches and I like the number 12 for a variety of reasons, I had to kind of narrow it down so that I didn't lose the reader with this enormous cast of characters. With the Lost Apothecary, Nella, she was the apothecary, very burdened woman dealing with a lifetime of pain, which is why she's selling poison to women all over the city. I never could really relate to her. Similarly, Mari, who's sort of the leader of the witches in the Amalfi Curse, um, she's dealing with a lot of really heavy topics. She's also in a bit of a love triangle. She's destined to be married to this man that she loathes, and she's keeping up a secret romance with an American sailor who's making his way to her at the moment the book starts. So it's a little bit more relatable with her because she's kind of got this fun romance going on. But I think that I put a little bit of myself into all of my characters. I probably relate most to Haven, the present day protagonist, who's the nautical archaeologist. She, when the story opens, she's trying to hunt down this treasure that her late father left behind. I can relate to that because I lost my dad about 10 years ago. So there were some elements and reflections on grief that she explores that came from my heart. She also is she's a working woman professional in a man's industry. And in the publishing industry, which I'm in now, thankfully I'm not up against this as much, but I have 13 years in corporate finance and commodities trading. That was all men. And I know what it's like to walk into a boardroom and kind of feel the eyes look at you like, why is this chick here? So I think I could relate quite a bit to Haven, her trying to excel in a male dominated industry. And then of course, as she explores Positano, and this is, I think, what readers love the most, she's sipping limoncello, she's having a bowl of mussels in this garlic tomato broth, she's developing a flirtatious romance with her hot Italian boat driver. All of these sensory elements are things that I pulled from my own 2 trips to Positano with my husband. The boat driver that Haven is after, his name is Enzo, and Enzo was inspired by a really good-looking waiter that I had at dinner one night with my husband. And I even told my husband that waiter is really hot, and he's going to inspire a character in the Amalfi Curse. So I think that's what readers have the most fun with. And I've had so many early readers say that they want to go to Positano, but they can't right now, whether they can't afford it or whatever. And they're like, your book is sort of scratched that itch a little bit for me.